no fade in today. Hey everybody!
Hey!
Happy Saturday!
Happy Saturday night in November, mid-November already. Hard to believe. We're cruising really quick towards that big holiday where you have to spend a lot of money.
Well, I mean, you don't have to.
You don't have to. You can give paintings away now.
Yeah.
So I'm Jenny.
I'm Paul.
And we're with GoBox Art Crate, the art subscription box where you can either subscribe and get monthly kits that have 2 paintings every month.
Yep.
Or you can buy singles. If you don't want to be a subscriber, but maybe there's a certain painting kit you want to do with us, you can go into gobox.com and find that particular kit. The one that's really popular right now is called the Red Truck. It's a holiday painting we did last year, and that one is selling quite a bit. So
actually, all the holiday ones are always fun, and we've got them kind of featured on the website right now, and all of our products on there do have the online tutorials that you get a link with the materials.
Yep.
And you can join us and watch us and find out
Paint
what
along.
was going on a year ago.
Paint along with us. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on our project.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get going. So we are working on Hesida? I don't know.
I always pronounce it Hesida Head.
Hesida Head Lighthouse, which is on the Central Oregon coast. And it's really kind of a cool lighthouse. This is a great, in terms of being a landscape painting, this is a good foundational painting as far as just kind of getting the basics on the landscape. And then we kind of give you a focal point with the lighthouse kind of in the foreground. I think the most important thing, and I know there's a lot of you that are new. Here we go. We got somebody. Hi, Joanne.
Yay,
Joanna.
So excited to be here live. Awesome.
Yeah.
We're excited to have you.
So this is one of the things that I want to kind of point out is like we do have a lot of new subscribers the last couple of months, and sometimes if painting were easy, everybody would do it, right?
Yep.
So give it a couple shots. Recognize that sometimes there's growing pains, and we'll all get through it together. That's what we're here for, is to help you find your way down that path.
And some of our paintings are a little more difficult, and others are going to be really easy. You'll breeze right through them.
So I think the hard thing on one like this, and we'll get going. Let's go ahead and get going. Let's start off with a toast. Let's toast. Grab whatever you got. Let's toast to
Hesida Head.
Hesida Head and
Cheers.
Indoor activities and all that fun stuff.
All right.
All right. So let's get this out of the way. And the first thing we're going to do with this painting is we're going to work on our sky, which is the furthest thing away from us. And so we are going to use our biggest brush.
Which would be these, your 4.
Yeah, if you're got the kit, we've got these 4 brushes here. And
yeah, your first kit in your subscription, if you do the subscription, we throw in the pack of brushes that should last you for quite a while.
Yep. And you can always replace them if you need to, or go out to the, pick some other ones. Anyway, so we're going to use this big guy first, and we're going to use it most of the painting. So it's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for us. And we're going to start out with our raw sienna color, which is what looks like yellow, but it's actually a tone of brown, and it's a nice color to add warmth without coloring, making everything green. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up about a third of the way, and I'm going to cheat and use my original. There we go. And we're just going to take this color straight across. It doesn't have to be perfect.
It can be straight-ish.
Straight-ish. It is nature, so it's never, ever, ever going to be 100% perfect. But perfect in its imperfection, right?
Yeah. So I'm painting along with Paul.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm here. Remind him to say
I thought you were just I thought you were just here to heckle me,
But towards the end we always show, when I'm teaching, we show Paul's painting at the end along with the original. So
yep.
We'll do that.
All right. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to move along, because the trick on all this is we want to make sure we're working into wet paint. And if you're new and you haven't painted before, or you've never painted with acrylics.
So you added white.
We're just painting white onto it. Yep. If you're new and you haven't painted before and you haven't used acrylics dry really fast.
Which is both a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, you have to learn how to work with it, that's for sure. And I'm a big fan of letting my brushes be a little bit choppy. I think trying to blend things and make them perfectly smooth. We got a comment over there, Jenny.
One lollipop life. In art, that's the best suffix. Ish. Yes, it is. We use that all the time.
Ish a lot. It is. I think I tried to patent it, but it just didn't work.
Well, and we started off as a wine and paint studio, and we found that when people are drinking, the word ish works best for them. Yeah. They grasp that right away.
Exactly. I got a little bit of a glare going over here. But anyway, so we're just going to work this, and we're going to use the white to pull this color up. I went up a little further than I needed to, but that's okay. I'm going to rinse my brush really quick. And one of the things that's a little bit tricky with this transition is we go right into this Bahama blue, which is kind of our turquoise here. I'm going to mix a little bit of Bahama blue with a little bit of white. And what I like to do is move up from where I stopped, maybe about an inch. And I'm just going to move this paint across here.
Oh, you're going for the safe transition, I see.
Yep. And then in order to bring this together, we can't blend these colors not very well. We're not going to get the best results if we try to blend them. But I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to take a little bit of white, brush it into the edge of my Bahama.
You didn't wash your brush, right?
Nope. The only time I really wash is once in a while just to refresh it. But then the other thing is when I'm switching from one base color to the other. I'm going to wipe my brush off really quick. And I'm just going to start working along this line, grabbing a little bit of paint. And what I'm doing, if I go in slow motion, is just kind of dabbing and letting it be.
And what color are you using there? The turquoise white
I'm actually
mix?
just picking up the paint from the canvas.
Oh, okay.
And I'm just dabbing down and being choppy and uneven. So what happens is it creates a little bit of a gradation when you step back. So it's kind of like pixelated in a way.
So I'm guessing the reason you did it this way with the white in between is because we would get green right through there.
Yeah, we get a really not a fun color. It'd be a nice storm. I mean, it wouldn't be out of place. It'd be a nice stormy color.
Maybe I'll do that on mine. Just
go for it. There are no rules.
I'll be the sacrificial lamb here.
Now, if you feel like you want to put a little bit more of the turquoise in, you can do that now that you've got a little bit of a foundation. And what I'm doing, again, is I like to kind of dab the color in and then break it up as I move away from where I started so that we still get little bits of the old color showing through. I'll use Jenny's famous zoom technique, and you can kind of see it's choppy and broken up.
I think that's become your famous zoom technique.
Oh no, you started it, so we got to name it after you. But really right now what we want to try to accomplish is not using too much paint that we get big globs of on our brush. It's okay to work down in, let those two colors kind of mingle a little bit. They're not going to really like foul each other up real bad. You found that out. It actually kind of blended.
You can show it.
Yeah. So Jenny was a little bit more aggressive and just let those two colors.
Not really. It wasn't aggressive enough, I see.
Well, but you were not being as cautious in terms of using the white as a buffer. We tend to, when we're teaching, be a little bit overly cautious on that type of stuff just because it is the kind of thing that if you got really heavy with the paint there.
On a live video.
Yeah, I mean, you can always come back and fix it after it's dried, but it's something that you want to be a little bit cautious of. Yeah, these colors.
Oh, so I found out some random facts about Hesita head.
Okay.
Stuff I've researched before but forgot when we've done other Hesita head.
Can I stop you for just a second?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. If you get into any problems where it feels like it's getting too stripy or liney, you can always take a little bit of white, and just a little bit, you guys, not a lot, and you can kind of use that as a buffer to refresh. And go ahead, Jenny.
Oh, I was just going to tell you that the first time they ever lit the light was 1894.
Wow. So for those of you on the East Coast, that's no big deal. Like 1894 is like nothing.
Yeah, I know. Over here on the West Coast,
here it was like we were 100
years after you guys.
Mm-hmm.
at least. No, we were definitely.
Well, actually, our little town here in Sherwood was already established, but... All right, so I'm going to go back to my Bahama now, and I'm just going to work my way up. What I'm looking for, I didn't worry about cleaning my brush. What I'm looking for as we're doing this is we want to make sure we're getting enough paint on the canvas that we're not seeing a lot of... Well, we don't want to see any of the white primer showing through. But we don't need big, huge glops of paint either. Not for the sky. Not for this painting. Maybe we'll do one sometime. So I'm just going to work my way up and leave myself maybe about an inch at the top. Because we're going to do our same little move up and then move back down technique. I'm not going to rinse my brush. I'm just going to use a little bit of the cobalt blue now. Start just a little bit above. Now, I will tell you that these particular colors, they play well together. The Bahama blue, you can always bring in and bring it on top of the cobalt once things have dried up a bit. But you can see I'm leaving a little gap. You can see it if I kind of move my hand over here a little bit. Leaving a little gap. And then you can take the wet colors and blot them into each other. Real technical terms tonight. Blot, dab, splotch.
Ish.
Ish. I used to say in the studio a lot, it's like, we want this line to go straight, kind of, sort of, maybe, ish, if you feel like it.
I remember that.
Yeah.
People like that.
Yeah.
They can understand that.
Yeah.
I remember for the longest time you'd use the term scrumbling. I'm like, did you make that up?
Nope.
And then we found out it's an actual art term.
No, I knew it was.
I should have known that. I don't think any of my art professors ever used that term.
Yeah, well, you might be able to see the weave.
Well, yes. Okay, so Joanna, is it so thick that you can't see the canvas weave, or not that thick? Yeah, we do like to definitely. What you don't want to see is the white speckling.
Yeah,
from the
you can see the
texture
texture of the canvas itself, but not necessarily the speckling of the white popping through.
Yeah, seeing the texture of the canvas is good.
Yeah.
But just if you ever look at it and you have lots of little white dots,
that's not thick enough.
that means you just need a little bit thicker paint.
Yeah, it's
Now,
close.
Some people like to paint on a really smooth, non-textured canvas, and you guys can accomplish that by purchasing. It's inexpensive. You can go to Michael's or Blick Art Supplies and buy gesso, acrylic gesso, and you can coat your canvas, let it dry between, and you can have a completely smooth surface to paint on, which is fun.
Yeah, but maybe not necessarily if you're doing like Impressionism or like this, which is kind of teases with Impressionism. Not necessarily
The best.
It's not necessary. I'll just put it that way. But if you're doing something that's really fine detail and stuff, it would be good to have that nice smoothness.
So the owl would have been good that way.
Yeah. So one of the things I know I did on the original is I kind of started at the top again with a little bit of the fresh cobalt. We'll come back and we'll add some depth to it in a bit. If you guys are reading the instructions and I'm somewhere else other than the instructions, I apologize. We have a tendency of writing the instructions, which are fine, but then when we paint live, it doesn't necessarily always follow the exact time.
So he's talking about for those who aren't subscribers, he's talking about
Our printed instructions.
printed instruction sheets that come with the kit.
I gotta be honest with you, the printed instruction sheets are nice, but I think if you really want to get the most out of
Your painting
experience and learning the painting, the videos are the best way to go. Way too much paint. That's
I'm
kind of...
guilty of always... I'm reading the comments. So
Yeah.
I'm guilty of always using way too much paint. I think that's not a bad thing.
No, it's a matter of like, you can use a lot of paint, but it's learning how to work with that extra paint and the pressure you put on the brush and everything is really important. Because if you look at like the old masters, they were not thin paint.
No. And I think it really also, it's certain parts of the painting you'll want to use a lot of paint, and then mainly the background, I would think, for this sort of painting, and then as you get further,
Well, I like
you would
to
use a little less.
Well, actually, like for the way I paint typically with a landscape is when I'm doing the sky, for example, I'm going to use a little thinner because I want it to feel more smooth. The other thing is you can bring a little bit more of this turquoise, the Bahama, back into play. I've got a little too much on my brush. Easy fix. None of this is very important, really, because let's rinse my brush really quick. Because all the clouds and everything are designed to give the impression of breaking this up, so we don't have to be perfect. Visually just giving us other things to look at. Rinse this a little bit better. So mine's actually really messy. And that's okay, that's kind of what I want.
It's kind of how you are.
It really is.
Actually, I think that's a good painting style, though. I strive to be a little bit more messy with my paintings.
Yeah.
I tend to try to over perfect. It's just my natural instinct, and
I think that's most people's natural instinct, honestly.
probably, except for yours.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it could be. All right. The other thing we can do really quick, and I use really quick a lot because we're not going to put a lot of focus and emphasis on this. I'm going to give my brush a real fast rinse. And really, when I'm rinsing my brush, if you guys are new to this, I'm really scrubbing the brush against the bottom of the jar.
Big ones can take that.
Yeah, the little ones, you can be a little bit daintier with that, but still you want to flex them against the bottom. Really give it a brush on the paper towel. I am going to mix together about equal parts our cobalt blue and our bright red. So not a lot, just a little dab, Lean a little bit more towards the blue side, so I'm going to end up going about twice as much blue as red. Don't want a lot. Don't need a lot, but I'm just going to very lightly fluff a little bit of this across the top. And it just adds a little extra depth. Let me tilt this a little bit so you can see. It just adds a little extra depth to the top edge of our sky. Kind of starts to hint to this, that this sky is working into some darker tones.
To me, your painting looks like it just rained and is clearing up.
That's kind of the vibe. I mean, that's pretty much Oregon.
Yeah, and we just went there. We spent 4 days there. Not at the Lighthouse, but at Yachats, which is just a little bit north. I don't know, what is it, 10-minute drive?
Yeah.
And it looked like that a lot. We had a lot of very huge rainstorms, which was amazing because our house that we stayed in overlooked the coast. It was like literally steps from the beach. Mm-hmm. So that was like super cool.
Yeah, there's a saying that we have here in Oregon that if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. So this is the post-storm 5 minutes later.
For sure.
If you are following along with our instructions, I will show you where we're at real quick. We've basically completed step 1. We're partway into step 2, and we're going to start putting our water in. So all of this that we're doing right now is just preliminary layout stuff. It is what we call underpainting for the most part. The sky is pretty much the way it's going to be, and we're going to live with that as it is, because when we come back in and we put the clouds in, a lot of the unevenness that we might be seeing right now is just going to be absorbed into that texture, and we won't see it as much. It's all about how our eyes perceive things. All right, too much talking. Let's get painting. So I'm going to take that dark color that we just used across the top of our canvas.
The purple?
The purple. Again, that's about 2 parts of the blue, 1 part of the red. And because we are going to have clouds that are right along our horizon line, we're going to put a little bit of this right along our horizon. Now this you want to probably try to get as straight as you can. And then I'm just going to brush this out a bit because I don't want this to really be the color of the water right here. It's just the tint.
So you're just like letting your brush run out of paint?
Yeah, I'm just getting a little bit of this color on there just for the tint.
Do you have some water mixed with your paint?
Nope.
I'm just using too much, I guess.
Just using too much paint.
Mine is also a different shade than yours.
Yeah, you got a little bit more blue going on yours. And then while that's still wet, I'm just going to go ahead and brush in a little bit of our Bahama and a little bit of white. Just kind of let this... Now, this is something that gets a little bit uncomfortable sometimes for people when we're first painting, is this beginning stage of painting water. I think of painting water at the beginning. This got a little bit too Bahama-y. So I'm just going to mix some more of this color. A lot of times people get very uncomfortable because it feels very muddy at first. Like, oh, there's all this, it just feels like a big blob of everything. And that's what I like to do. And the reason for that is a lot of times when you're looking at water, what you're picking up, especially water that's moving like the ocean, you're picking up little bits of the gold and little bits of the Bahama and little bits of the cobalt, and then when the clouds come in, little bits of that violet color. So you're picking up what I like to call ambient color of everything that's around it. So this muddiness at the beginning is what kind of gives us that foundation. In fact, I'm going to brush a little bit of my gold in here too. Get it in the muddy mix. Yeah,
this is when the canvas starts becoming muddy, it's kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah, but that's what we want. What we want to be careful of while we're doing this is that we're not working in one area to the point where it starts to lift the paint. So that's a nice thing to talk about for beginners. If you're working on an area and all of a sudden you see the paint start to lift, walk away. And what I mean is, let it dry, work on something else, then come back and try to add paint. Because if it starts lifting the paint, your people's immediate reaction is, oh, I need to put more paint on. And usually what happens is that causes it to lift more paint and more paint and more paint, and then you have a mess. So just leave it be. It'll be fine. We'll get there.
And you can paint right over it.
You can paint right over it, but it's got to dry first. All right, I'm just going to soften it up with a little bit of white. And then we're going to work into a little bit more Bahama, just like we're starting at our horizon with our more golden tone and working up into more of our Bahama tone. We're going to play with this water a lot more as we work. And I'm really working on getting my brush going side to side, horizontal, encouraging the notion of the water planes that we see.
It looks like you're using a thin edge of your brush, huh?
Sometimes.
Okay, switch it.
Yep, there's no hard, fast rule. And essentially what we're going to do is we're going to kind of replicate the sky, but in a muddier version. So you can add more turquoise, more Bahama, whatever you want to do. It's all good. It's your painting. Do what makes you happy. If you don't know what makes you happy yet, just keep rocking and rolling along with us and we'll figure it out as you go. All right. So again, I'm just going to keep pretending. What I like to do is I pretend that we're not going to paint anything else. So I want to make sure that I get all of this bottom of the canvas.
You know, we're gonna give Anna Hill credit for this painting too.
Didn't we already?
I don't know. We need to give her credit on this tutorial.
I know. I thought you had, but maybe I just saw it on the video.
You saw it on our Facebook page.
Yeah. So one of our longtime subscribers, she was one of our first subscribers over 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Who used to be a regular at our studio before she and her family moved to Wyoming. Said she used to live here. She really missed Central Oregon coast, and she loved the Lighthouse. She actually sent a photo that she had taken, and we ran with it.
Requested a painting, so you guys can do that too if there's something you'd really like to see. We need the ideas sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, when we moved the studio from our old location to our current location, where we do the videos and everything. Would we move 500 paintings?
Yeah, we moved them to Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah, I mean, we had doubles of everything, but, and we'd already gone, we'd already purged at some point. So I'm getting all kinds of fun colors popping in here. We'll come back and actually add more of this glow as a highlight a little bit later. We'll switch brushes to do that in a bit. How are we doing time-wise? We're 25 minutes in. We've got the whole canvas covered. That's a good place to be. I always like to try to get the foundation of the painting done pretty quickly so that it can dry and I can start seeing things develop. So we're going to keep working in that mindset. We're going to go ahead and we can use the big brush, or you can use the next size down, which I think is a number 8. Is that correct? We have the 8, the big brush, the 8, the 4, and the little brush. And what I'm going to do is we're going to mix up more of our little violet here. And I'm going to add just a touch of yellow to it. Gold, raw sienna. To see where we're at. Really, it's kind of like, it's just a violet color. That's all we need. It doesn't have to be anything super fancy. Mine's a little bit more on the
You added raw sienna to that?
Just a touch. Okay. You have to be careful because that can take over and make it almost black. Mm-hmm. And so I added a little bit of white. You could add a little bit of Bahama would probably be a better option. But I've got a lot of paint on my brush right now. So we talked about that a minute ago. I'm going to show you how we deal with that without wasting a ton of paint. I am just going to start right along my horizon. Now my color is a little bit bluer in the lavender range than the original painting, but that's okay. And all I'm going to do is I'm just using, you can see I'm holding the brush a little bit different.
You're holding it the way you hold a bow on a string instrument.
Yeah, you don't have to do it this way, but it feels comfortable for me.
Kind of.
And when I paint upright on a palette, on an easel.
Are we painting the clouds in here? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
But when I paint on an easel, I hold the brush like this most of the time. It's a little bit harder.
Now I know how you do it. Top secret. Revealed.
Secret revealed. You guys can Venmo me the tip on that. So anyway, I'm just taking the paint that's on the brush, moving mostly horizontal. And I put some paint on the canvas. And so that's the important thing. I am going to switch to a smaller brush really quick.
So over here on the left gets covered with a Landmass.
It does, but we still want to put the clouds there. Mm-hmm. Because if we don't, what happens is we try to fill in what's missing. So I'm just going to take a clean brush. I'm going to go to my number 8. I'm going to start to take some of this color and start out here where it's a little fainter and kind of start to lift. Like I'm thinking about these clouds are starting to break up. Just a clean, dry brush.
And you're just holding this brush normal.
Yep. And just use this brush to soften all of this up. And got a little bit more up from my horizon, so if I want to bring some more down, you can. But what I like to do is rather than going down with this motion, I'm starting with the paint and I'm working up, softening the top edges of these smudges to give the impression, not the shape, just the impression of some clouds.
And this is the part where your confidence might start wavering.
Yeah.
It's super normal.
What I recommend...
Mine is a little.
What I really recommend is squint at it once in a while so you're not seeing what you're doing, not the technique, not the process, not what you think you did, but actually seeing it through different eyes so that you can see what it looks like more.
You know, that's such a good tip. So Paul and I went to college together. That's where we met. And our professor there, that was one of the best pieces of advice. And he's the only art professor I've ever had that has given that advice, to stand back and squint at your work or squint at the photo you're trying to paint, so your brain is forced to pick up on the light and dark in the painting.
You want to kind of take the detail out of it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a hard thing. I think people think about artists and they think about all this fine detail work. And if you look at like Monet or Van Gogh, there's not a lot of fine detail work. Now I just picked up a little bit of extra paint from my palette. It's from the canvas itself. Just add a couple little smudges. You don't have to do a lot on this. If you get going, I got this as a little bit bolder than I maybe want. I'll just dry my brush off and use it to lift some of that paint.
Oh, you're doing a little offshoot cloud over there. Huh?
Yeah. And on this right hand side, I'm just going to keep using this brush. On this left hand side, you can do some little whispers of clouds here and there. What I like to do as far as a technique of creating a cloud, and this is something that I know when I tell you a cloud, you want to draw a cloud. And it's the same thing with a tree. If I tell you we're going to do a tree, you want to draw a tree, but we're going to paint it. And what I like to do to get a cloudy feel, start with kind of a horizontal-ish line-ish, kind of maybe. Wipe the brush off, and then push the color up from that line. All right. That's pretty good for now. I know we're going to have this landmass that kind of comes across here. I've got a little bit more light. The original, I'm pointing off to the side over here. My original, I've got the clouds going a little bit further across at the bottom. Today I've got it a little bit more up. If you want to do more at the bottom, you can just work some in across. In here in Oregon, and I'm sure it's the same place, same no matter where you're at, we often have a nice big fog bank hanging out just offshore. When it gets hot inland, it pulls the fog in. All right. Next step. We're going to do very similar at the top, but we're going to need to be a little bit darker than what we just did. So we're just going to take a little bit of blue, for the cobalt blue, a little bit of the red, make it more darker violet. We're not going to add anything to lighten it up. I'm going to start over here on the left-hand side.
Big brush?
Using the big brush. And again, very loose. You get some paint on there.
And you just made a violet with blue and red.
Just blue and red.
Huh? I'm catching up. You make it look so easy, Paul.
Well, that's because I just don't think about it. I just do it.
You know, that's how the kids are when we would teach the kids painting classes.
So
I loved that about kids.
Now you're calling me a child?
Yeah,
that's
you are.
True.
But I love that about the kids is you just tell them what to do, and before you even get the sentence out of your mouth, they do it. And I almost think we need to be that way in some ways. I mean, obviously, with like running out in the middle of a street, you don't want to do that. But like with painting, I think sometimes it's maybe a good thing. Otherwise, you're just going to stare at a blank canvas forever.
I mean, I can honestly say from teaching people in person, let me see if I got my horizon line a little higher than the original. But teaching people in person, the number one stumbling block is getting people to disconnect their brains a little bit more.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard for, even if you've been painting forever.
And I think
it takes a little bit.
The one thing that really jumps out at me in that regard is we oftentimes, when we're painting and we're not experienced with painting, we're learning and we're doing these techniques, we a lot of times look at our brain registers what we did rather than what it looks like. So we know, oh, I just painted a line across there, so we have a hard time seeing it as anything but a line. But somebody else will look at it and go, oh, I see a water, a wave, or a ripple, or something like that, and we think, oh no, I just painted a line, so it can't look like anything other than that. So
that's my theory of why people like their paintings much better the next day. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've disconnected from the process and they're actually looking at it.
Because your brain is actually just calculating things as you go along. Oh, what did I do here? Oh, I just drew a line. Oh, blah, blah, blah. What am I doing next here? Oh, I just did this. And then the next day you forget about all that stuff. You're like, hey, I did a really darn good job.
Yeah. You want to go ahead and close that little printer reminder window because it's distracting me. Go away, Epson. We don't. No.
Oh, no. Cancel. Okay. All right. I think we're good.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. What happened?
What'd you do? All right.
What do you want me to
Just click no. We're still live. We're still good.
Okay. There we go.
Darn computers. All right.
Darn technology.
Yeah. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start putting our landmass in on the left-hand side here. And this will be like, if you kind of got this part of your clouds, this is why we started here. Get used to that feeling because we're going to cover a lot of it up and it won't matter.
Joanna says, I put mine in my classroom and I like them more as I see them from my desk every day. That's awesome.
You know what's amazing about that is...
great. And I bet your students love them too.
Yeah, exactly. The kids do. We actually have a lot of teachers that talk about that they bring their paintings in and it gets to be like, especially the subscribers, where the kids start asking, when are you bringing your next one in? And stuff like that. But one of the things that, and maybe Jenny, you maybe learned this while we were as well, teaching live in the studio, one of the things we really had to learn how to do is trust the process. Because usually if you're painting at home, you step back a lot and look and see what it looks like from a distance.
Drink a cup of coffee.
But when you're teaching people in, like our one studio sat 44 people, and you basically just have to trust that what you're doing looks like what you think it's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
And I think that just really taught me how to trust the process. That, yes, I know it looks messy up close, but I know that when I step back, it's going to look like what I think it looks like. And that's something that you will develop over time. At first, it takes a while to learn. But all right, So I'm mixing up a darker color. Basically, I took my blue and my red and added a little bit of our raw sienna, and I think I want to lighten it a little bit with just a touch of Bahama. Boy, that Bahama's potent. Boom. Did a little too much.
Yeah, it's got enough white in it that it's going to overpower your color.
Yeah.
So what color are we shooting for here?
We're just kind of shooting for a dark, violety gray.
Okay.
Grayish violet. Just needs to be darker than your clouds at the horizon, that's all.
Yeah. Oh, we're doing the landmass, huh?
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to come in maybe just from middle of our canvases right here. I'm going to move to the left maybe about an inch.
Middle move to the left an inch, okay.
Doesn't really matter. And you'll find out in a hurry if this is dark enough. If it's darker than your clouds, you're good.
If it's not, add more blue and red to it.
Yep. Now, I want this to be uneven. So a lot of times what we find is when people paint the shape in the background, they tend to draw it and it gets really smooth. And so I like to take the brush and just kind of dab and blot. Go a little taller as we go to the left. Now this hillside, I don't know what it is called off the top of my head, I apologize, is covered with trees.
It's called View from Hasita Head.
Yeah. It is covered with trees that from this distance you can see a little bit. So I just take my brush and just very lightly come along and just give it a little flick up at the top with no paint on it, just picking up the wet paint off the canvas. Just give it a little flick. It just fuzzies up that top edge so it looks a little bit more like trees. You can do this a couple times.
So it's almost like you're painting grass, but you're not.
Yeah, they're
these
trees.
Are supposed to be fir trees.
Yeah.
Fir trees viewed from far away, and that's what they look like, honestly.
Now, the other thing you can do is wipe your brush off. You can come along, take some of this wet paint.
Oh, we're brushing it down in.
Brushing it down into our water.
Okay. Huh.
Little Mr. Ross technique there. Put a little quick little side to side.
Yeah, I like doing that when you're painting a reflection in water. You go
Yeah.
down and then you go side to side, and it's like, whoa, that's such a simple thing, and it really makes it look like water.
Yep, and we'll get a little bit more. We'll come back in when we start adding some more things going on with the water. We'll come in and touch more of that up. It's okay if you can see some of your sky through this. It's all just ambience. It's highlights. It's shadows. It brings everything together. Time to hydrate.
You know, another thing I wanted to tell you that I found when I was looking up stuff about Hasita Head Lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
The light can be seen 21 miles out from the land, and it reaches the furthest out than any lighthouse in the United States.
Really?
Yeah.
That
Isn't
I
that
didn't
cool?
know. Well, we've been up in there. That they don't use it anymore. Obviously, they don't use
I think they do.
They
but,
turn it on sometimes, but it's
but
not
it's
actually
not-
used for
yes.
navigation because they all use GPS
and it's
now.
used like digitally now, like they can remotely turn it on without having to have a lake keeper live in the little lighthouse, which would be a really interesting
But
job.
the lens on that thing is amazing. All right, so same mix. We're going to sidestep where we just mixed. I'm going to mix a little bit of red. A little bit of red. Let's add a little bit of blue now. Let's go backwards.
We're going to make purple like 20 times in this painting.
Yeah.
Just like we did with the owl.
Yep. And add a little bit of my raw sienna. That gives us a real nice dark tone. And what we're going to do next is our secondary little landmass that's out here. I want this to be a little bit darker. If it's not a big deal. But I do want it to be a little darker. And what we're going to do is we're going to move down from our horizon line. Well, we're going to move from our point about halfway from our point to the edge of the canvas, so right about here. And we're going to move down about an inch. And we're just going to, mostly horizontal, go across. You can kind of give it a little side-to-side little wiggle and jiggle. And then, same thing.
There goes all my reflection I worked so hard on.
It's all right, but but you're still going to have little bits of it. And
Yeah.
if you didn't leave it, I mean, if you didn't put it in there, then it would be harder to
That's
put
right.
back in.
That's right.
All right, so I want to make sure that this left edge goes up above that shoreline where it connects.
And this is the cool beach you want to go to. This one that's hidden right in between those.
Is it? I don't know if it is or not.
I don't know. I just think about like those little inlets are so cool.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to just wipe my brush off. We're going to do the same thing. Give it some little trees. The other thing to doing the trees at the top, it really softens that up. It takes away the hard edges, which is something that I think in a landscape, when you're looking at something that's a little bit away, then we don't want real hard edges on it. All right, same thing. Give our little flick down. Now, obviously, what I'm doing, I shouldn't say obviously. That assumes that it's obvious. It's not necessarily. I'm trying to mimic what's above the shoreline. So I go a little further down on the left, not quite as far down on the right. And just kind of get a quick little swiggle. We'll kind of reestablish a lot of this as we go.
Yeah, this is like a little cove in here.
Mm-hmm.
I remember years ago my parents found this little cove beach and were like, oh, there's nobody here. This is so neat. And they laid out on the beach and they fell asleep. And us kids were just playing. And
Do you guys get trapped?
yeah, the tide came in. My dad had to carry my sister on one side and me on the other to get us out.
All right, so using our dark color here, we are going to start laying out our base for our lighthouse. Now, this particular setup, there's kind of a little bit of a jagged rock pretty much right in the center of our canvas, side to side, maybe about a little bit down from this point we just did. My horizon line's a little higher than the original, but I'm just going to, there is like actually a cove and a beach back in here
You could show the original so we know what we're painting.
Yeah, we're painting this lower rock area here.
Nice.
This is the footprint for the...
And it's the same color you just used here, or?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, I see a lot of photos taken from that angle, but I always wonder, how do the people get up there?
There's a path.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah, we just have never taken it.
Wow, we need to do that.
It's usually raining when we're there.
Yeah.
Because we go in October.
Yeah.
Or November.
We like the off seasons, that's for sure.
Now this side, I'm just going to bring it across. There is some trees and stuff that we're going to put in later. But we're just going to get this rocky shape set up here.
Kind of a cool hike up there to the lighthouse because you have to go through some spooky woods.
Yeah, it's not very far though. It's like what?
Nope.
3/4 of a mile, half a mile.
No, and then
like
the bed and breakfast is the original. Is that what? Like, I know the little house that's attached to the lighthouse was originally, there was a different house there that was the lightkeeper's house, but then the house they built lower that is the bed and breakfast is. Maybe that's the residence that the lightkeeper lived in after.
That is what it was.
Yeah. That's the one that's supposedly haunted. I always thought it was the lighthouse part that was haunted, so I'd be like taking all these pictures and be like, maybe some ghosts will appear in my pictures, and then I realized, oh wait, it's not this part that's haunted.
Yeah, so if you're at the lighthouse, there's a path that comes down around here, back over, way back up in here, and there's another house. But it's not a lighthouse, it's like a...
If you're not in Oregon and you ever fly out, drive there, and it's amazing. Land at Portland Airport, take a little 2.5 hour drive to this place.
3.5 hour drive.
Yeah,
from Portland.
Yeah, from Portland Airport, for sure. Worth it. Worth every mile.
Stay down there, get some fish and chips at Lunacy and yachts.
Yeah.
Some Slumgullion. All right. So we're going to start to work on our lighthouse shape, and we're going to use the same brush. We're going to use the same color. And essentially what we're going to do is we're going to go up to within about a 1/4 inch or so of our horizon line, and we're just basically going to pull a straight line down.
Scary part.
Nah, it's not scary. Don't plant seeds of negativity, Jenny.
It's easy. You're just painting a straight line. Right through your water.
I'm going to do about 3, let me see. Yeah, it's about 2 brush widths wide. Now, this is not a terribly tall lighthouse in terms of its actual height from where its foundation is, but it is way up above sea level. It's up on a bluff.
And it looks like it's slightly wider at the bottom.
A little bit. It's got a little taper. I'm not too concerned about the taper at this point, but... Now, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush, I'm going to turn it on edge. You make sure I got a nice chisel point on there. I'm going to turn it on edge, and I am going to extend this line. 1, 2... 1, 2... I didn't get quite as good that second 2, but it was fun.
I think I just painted the nuclear power plant.
Oh, cool.
That's what it looks like.
Well, you're not supposed to say stuff like that because then you'll never unsee it. You know that rule.
I made it a little wide. Well, it's the robust version of NC Dead.
Hasn't been as active, so it's put on a little bit of weight.
It put on COVID pounds.
Put on some COVID
like
weight.
the rest of us.
Now, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my brush, I'm going to go straight across. I'm going to go out maybe about a 1/4 of an inch on either side at the top. If you guys ever want to read about a really cool lighthouse in Oregon, read about Terrible Tilly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that one's really kind of got a...
Is that one in Newport?
No, it's Tillamook.
Oh, Tilly. Yeah, Tilly and Tillamook.
Yeah. And it's on an island. It's on a rock out in the ocean, and it was like... Yeah, it was almost... Boy, I got it. Am I really that crooked?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just fix this up. But building it was terrible.
Did a lot of people die?
I don't know if people... Yeah, I think they did. All right, so I think what I need to do is fix the
It's
top.
pretty stormy down there.
So this is kind of just got a little domey top. You can use a smaller brush. Maybe that's my problem. Right
Yeah.
That's my problem.
That's a good idea.
I'm trying to use too big of a brush.
And it's not a super tall pitch point. It's like a little low. What is the triangle called that's low like that?
I don't know.
Gotta go back to geometry.
Yeah. So it's just kind of got a little dome top here and a little section at the top and then a little ball. This doesn't have to be exact. This could be any lighthouse, anywhere you want it to be. Whatever makes you happy. Now this looks a little clunky at first, but we'll clean it up. We'll clean it up.
Yeah, it's kind of disappearing in your clouds, I think, because of the glare, maybe.
Yeah.
So you could tilt it a little. There you go.
Yeah.
It's a little clunky there.
It's a little clunky. We'll fix it.
That's the cool thing about painting with acrylics, you guys. You can paint over anything.
Yep.
You can paint over your whole canvas and start over.
You know,
I've done it lots of times.
You shouldn't encourage that, though.
No, you don't have to do
We've
that.
had people
You
do that.
can.
We've had people do that in the studio before. Now, while this is still wet, I'm going to go ahead and let's use our number 8. I'm going to take a little bit of white and just kind of smudge it in.
Which brush are you? Number 8?
Number 8.
Did you know you can actually buy lighthouses? I've seen that there's like a whole website. Buy a lighthouse. Like some random lighthouse somewhere.
That would be weird because you
It'd be
know
really
people would be
weird,
like
yeah.
coming by and like looking at it all the time.
Maybe. Some of them are probably like, oh, you have to have a yacht and be able to reach this island.
It could be. So just add some opacity by just brushing in some white.
And we're primarily focusing the white on the right side?
Yeah, I started on the right, and then as I work across, it just runs out of paint.
All right. Sounds good. And you brought that down within about half an inch of the bottom-ish?
I mean, you could take it all the way to the bottom if you want. It really doesn't matter.
Okay.
I'll do that because we're actually going to paint
Ah, yeah, we're going to paint some shrubbies there.
shrubs and stuff in. So you don't have to, but you can. I'm just looking at the instructions we provided, make sure we're in the same place. While we're at it, I'm going to take a little bit of this white, and I'm going to create this first little building, which is actually, I think, the oil... No, it's not the oil building. That's the building we think that they lived in, is this one right here.
Well, I was reading that, yeah, it used to be a wood building, and that's where they lived, and then I don't know if it burned down, they just rebuilt it.
Yeah.
And nobody ever lived in that one, I don't think.
I think
The
it's...
little concrete stucco or whatever it is.
Yeah. So I'm just creating the...
So it's like a little triangle with
Little
the square
triangle
on the bottom,
end.
just like the way you draw a house when you're a kid, yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
And then we're just going to give it a couple little lines.
Oof. Mine does not look good.
It's all right. It doesn't look good right now. And then we're going to do... Mine's a little steep. So I'm going to flatten that out a bit. I put too much perspective in mine.
It's a really tiny building.
It really is tiny.
Mm-hmm.
It really is very small. And we're going to do this other one, which I think is the oil house. Where they kept the kerosene or whatever the original candle worked with. So just kind of doing like a little triangle top, a little square, and then a little rectangle. Nothing real precise right now. I think that's, like, to me, like these buildings, a lot of times we have a tendency of obsessing on making them look perfect, and it's the imperfection of them that makes it work. I'm going to take a little bit of red, paint in our roof. The red's a little bit transparent.
You can add a little black to it.
We don't have black.
Oh, that's right. You're right. This is the one.
You could add a touch of blue to it if you wanted to darken it up a bit.
This is the 1 month we didn't do black. We were so proud of that.
Add a secondary little roof here. A roof here.
Oh, what size brush are you using?
Oh, I am using
Number 8.
Number 8. You could use the number 4.
I'm using number 4 personally because my buildings are pretty small. And
yeah.
but yeah, 8 or 4.
You know, the 8 and 4 are really very interchangeable in the set.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny though, because like Jenny cringes when she sees me use a small brush, because I really don't use them like a fine instrument. I use them like
You phrase all the brushes.
I do. I kind of beat them up. So my Lighthouse is a little skinnier than the original. Little
You
taller.
can have some of the excess weight from mine.
Yeah. Well, it's got a New Year's resolution. It's working on it. It wants to make sure that, you know, it's around for a while. So.
It's got high cholesterol.
Yeah. All that's fun stuff. All right. So I am going to switch now to my smallest brush. I'm going to take a little bit of, mix up our dark color again. Just a little dark, little blue, little red. Add a little bit of our raw sienna. And I'm going to go ahead and put in, looks like I've got 4.
You're using your small brush?
Yep.
So this is blue, red, raw sienna again.
Yep. I'm just doing our vertical
panes.
What a pain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they're maybe not going to be 100% equally spaced because we're looking at a round structure. So you're going to get, and maybe you're seeing some through, and then I'm going to do a couple of horizontal ones. One. Oh, that one's right on my horizon line. Oh, well.
Nice.
Nice. Now, I feel like in this one I'm working on, I made my light a little bit too short, the actual glass part. So I'm going to actually create the little walkabout, I don't know what it's called, little
railing?
viewing deck area. I'm going to move it down a little bit, and I'm going to fix this. You guys can put yours right in at the base of your light, but I'm trying to fix mine so I've got a little bit more glass showing. I'm extending out about the same distance as my roof line, and then you can kind of just bring a little angle back. Add some thickness here. How are we looking on time?
Yeah, you've been painting for an hour.
Oh, well, we're doing pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Compared to last month, man.
Yeah, last month you had a little bit longer painting with the mushrooms.
That mushroom, yeah.
But they turned out good.
They were fun. I enjoyed that. That was one of my favorites. I'm enjoying a nice chai tea cider.
By 10 Towers Cider Company.
By 10 Towers Cider Company. Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor, but we buy it.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying Sawtooth Pinot Gris out of Idaho, woman-owned wine company.
Yeah. Just gonna mix up a little bit more of this color. Like a lot of people, like Jenny, you have a tendency of mixing more color initially, and then going back to it. Whereas I tend to mix little less and just keep mixing as I go. And there's neither way is right or wrong.
What do we do now? Windows?
This second little line right here.
Oh.
You can do windows. You can use a small brush. You can use a medium brush if you want. Just a couple on here. We'll come back and add some more highlights, and then there's another something or another here. I feel like it's a door, though, if I remember the actual.
That's a weird spot for a door.
Yeah, I feel like it was like an observation thing or something. Don't remember.
Escape hatch.
Yeah, escape hatch. If I were just to go with this light and these two windows, it's like Lighthouse is not amused. Kind of has that kind of look. You can take a little bit of this dark color too, and just this is where where Jenny doesn't like me using the small brush. Just take a little bit
You're
of this.
killing it.
Killing it.
Kill it.
Just use it, and I like to because you've got the tip of the brush, but you also have the length of the bristles, and sometimes it's a nice way of laying some of this paint in on the sides there.
So we're just shading the side, eh?
Yeah, just a bit. You can do a little bit on your
Right.
buildings too.
Where did you shade the buildings?
Just a little bit. There's actually a door on
Oh,
this
I
one
see,
right
on the
here.
side that is facing
Yeah.
away from the light source.
There's a door right here.
This little building always reminded me, like, it has this kind of small chapel look to it.
Yeah, but it's really tiny. I mean, that building's only got to be like 10 by 15 or something like that when you're actually there in person.
Tiny. I've tried peering in the windows. It's always locked up tight. It's like, what are they keeping?
What are they building in there? All right, so we're going to leave that alone for a little bit. We're going to work on our water a bit, and this is a little bit of a tricky time to work on the water, just because we've already painted the lighthouse in, and so some of the times we're going to be getting really close to the lighthouse. That's okay. Don't be afraid of that. If you need to paint back onto your lighthouse, you can paint back onto your lighthouse. It's fine. But I'm going to go with my number 4 brush. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to create some surface on our water. And to do that, I'm going to take a little bit of raw sienna. And if you're working along, and even if you're following live, and I'm going too fast for you, you can hit pause. You can back up if you need to. All that fun stuff. And I'm just mixing up almost like a whipped butter. Whipped butter, baby. And just mixing up a little bit of this color. And I'm just going to take some of it and just start dabbing it in. And what you really want to do with this is you want it to create highlights, but you don't want to paint over everything.
And what brush are you using?
Number 4.
Okay.
Yep. We are going to do a
Whipped butter.
little wave coming in over here in a bit. We're only going to come down, we'll come down quite a ways.
You know, one thing I thought about recently that we've never really addressed is changing out your water.
Yeah.
So you should talk about that.
Well,
'Cause I know you never
I'm
do.
not sure if I'm the right person to talk about that.
You never do. And it's not, but you watched a painter on TV who addressed that, and he had a really good thing to say about it.
So, especially when you're painting landscapes, and I've talked about ambient color a lot already tonight, where when you're looking at this painting, you want what?
Joanna wants to know if you can do a Jenny style zoom on your highlights.
Absolutely, Jenny style. I think, yeah, it's just really choppy. Wait, that lighthouse is really, it looks like a child painted it.
See, yeah, but it's one of those things you put it down and it looks okay. It looks good.
Yeah.
It's just Paul's like Monet paintings. You don't look at them up close.
Yeah. What were we talking about?
Water changes.
Oh, water changes. So one of the things that I've been being a big opponent of actually changing your water while you're painting landscapes. And the reason is every time you wash your brush, the further along you move in your painting, the more you're going to pick up, it's going to bring it back into more of an organic feeling because you're going to be picking up the ambient colors that are in the cup. And so, like, especially when you're painting water, you don't necessarily want the water to be as crisp as the sky that we started with. We want it to be a little bit funky because water reflection is going to be duller. And so I have been against cleaning your water for a long time unless you're getting down and you really need some bright white and your brushes are really filthy dirty. But even then, I've had even sludgy water. You can see my paper towel doesn't have a lot of, it's not super dirty.
Mm-hmm. One thing you can do too is you can just keep a secondary water cup nearby.
But I think people they think that having perfectly clean water equates to a clean brush, and it doesn't. The water is just designed to loosen the pigment up from the bristles. Your towel actually is what cleans your brush for you. So I hope I explained that right. I don't feel like I did, but
I think it's good enough.
Good enough.
I mean, it made sense.
Okay, made sense to you. But anyway, when you're painting landscapes in particular, sometimes you want the colors to be a little bit deader than what the paint is. Mm-hmm. So having the water be a little bit tainted never hurts it. The only time it can be a problem is if you use black early in the painting and you really get a lot of black paint in your water. All right, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on making this covey area feel a little bit more wavy, and I am going to take a little bit. Let's actually mix a little bit of Bahama blue with a touch of red. I'm going to want this to lean a little bit more towards the blue side. There we go. And we're going to add some white. So if you'll notice, actually, when we're mixing these colors, this blue and red versus Bahama and red, they're very similar, just one's much lighter. So you can see this is like a light, oystery kind of gray. And I'm going to start right off the point of this here. You don't need much paint. Just using the number 4, just the tip of it.
I think I have the number 4 that you always use because it is frayed.
And I'm just working along this shoreline. I hit this other shoreline, I stop. So the waves are moving in this way, so I'm moving my brush side to side. I'm gonna move down, pick up the point of this one.
So I'm actually still mixing my color. Was this Bahama, a little touch of red and some white? Or
yep.
Was there white in it? Okay.
A little bit.
Okay.
Yep.
I think I got it pretty close.
And this color, what this color should do is when you paint it on these darker areas, it should look like a highlight. But when you work into some lighter areas of your water, it should feel like a shadow. So it's kind of this mid-tone where it's a highlight in the darker areas, it's darker in these lighter areas, and it's not obviously any of the colors. It's just like, the ambience of all the colors. We are going to go ahead and do one more. There's a little beachy cove right here, and there's always people there surfing. I don't know why people surf on the Oregon coast, because it's like 50 degree water. Sometimes in the winter it gets down into the 40s. But apparently we've got good waves. But there is
put on your wetsuit.
A good little wave that comes across. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this color. And what I'm going to do is, and Jenna, we've done this technique before. I think you're getting used to it. I'm just going to come across, kind of make it feel like it's coming across more horizontal.
So this is like the foamy part of the wave?
Yeah.
It feels weird.
We're just using this color. I'm going to actually have this go a little bit more horizontal as it goes to the edge of the canvas. And then once I've got that on there, I'm going to wipe my brush off, and I'm going to take this color, I'm going to smudge the right edge of it back.
Are you smudging to the right, or are you smudging upwards?
Back towards the right.
Okay, so towards the right. Okay.
Yeah. Away from the leading edge.
All right.
You can see this. Actually, we really got that. Jenny, zoom in. We got that highlight on the left in the darker area and the darker part on the white on the right. We are going to do a little bit of white on here too. And so I'm going to go ahead and use the same brush, a little tiny bit of white. Just kind of follow that same little edge here.
That'll help it stand out over
help it
that
stand
area.
out.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, I always see people when we're there, they're climbing that little rocky area. It's a rock right there, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I made mine into a tree-filled hill. Oops.
That's all right. Nobody knows.
Right.
If you hadn't pointed it out, nobody else would have known. Anyway, so I'm just going to take this now, smudge it out towards our right. You can kind of get a little bit of this going up along this shoreline so it's not overbearingly out of place.
I'm just looking to see.
If you paint over this little bit of rock here, that's okay. We can always come back to it. You can take a little bit of white and I'm just being a little bolder on this.
This is where
I'm being a little bolder on this
you could do
boulder.
some cool fog along there.
Oh, for sure. That might be for another painting class.
Yeah, fog is hard.
You can add
A
some
really dry
suggestions
brush.
of another wave, maybe. If you ever like go down to the coast, you'll see there's actually a lot of movement in between waves when you're looking down on it. So you can take like your smallest brush, a little bit of water, a little bit of white, and you can really add a lot of chatter, a lot of white noise, static in this area. And I feel like this is a little too rigid in here, so I'm going to take a little bit of our lighter gray here, a little more Bahama. And all this, what I'm doing right now is trying to take these areas that feel very harsh and saturated, and I'm just trying to soften them up. So I added a little bit of water to my kind of lavender color.
And how much paint are you putting on your brush here?
Not very much because I'm using
Okay.
my smallest brush.
Okay. And you're adding chatter, is that what you said?
Yeah, it's just, I want to be able to still see the reflections, but I want to break this up so it's not just a solid color.
So this area you're painting, this is all water. We don't see any sand in this
No
painting.
sand in this
Okay,
at
so this
all.
is all water.
Yeah, all water. If you wanted to do it so it looked like sand,
You got the right color on your palette.
I mean, well, no, yes and no. That's a dangerous thing.
You have to mix like that. and-
Yeah, what we could do is wet sand often looks purple.
Yeah, you're right.
So you could add a little touch of that to your mix here. Slather it in along here. But what I like to do is if I'm doing this is then just kind of smudge it out so it's not distinctive. So there, that could be wet sand.
Okay.
One of my favorite paintings I've ever done was a commission piece I did for some friends of the coast, and the wet sand was just a lot going on with it.
It was kind of reddish eggplant color, actually.
Yeah.
With a little of that thrown in there.
Yep. Exactly. So you can. I feel like at my horizon, I could use a little bit of shimmer. So I'm mixing a little bit of my raw sienna, a little bit more white. And over in these areas where I've got more sky showing. There is like really no minimum, no maximum that you can work on this type of stuff. With this particular painting, you can keep.
Are you still using your small brush?
I'm using
For the
my
shimmer?
smallest brush, yeah.
And you're mainly using white back there for the shimmer?
It was with a little bit of raw sienna too.
Oh, so the buttery color.
Yeah, but I lightened it up a smidge more.
Okay.
You can add a little bit of Bahama make it more into a sea foamy kind of green.
Oh, yeah. That's a good color.
Like all this color that you add in here, none of it hurts. None of it hurts. All this movement. What you want to do, though, I mean, you can use a bigger brush. Obviously, you can use number 4, you can use your number 8. But we want to make sure that we're preserving little bits and pieces of all the steps. So you don't want to ever lose the underpainting. A little bit more. You can get just a little bit of white even. Very small little bits of sparkle, as Bob used to call it. Bob would be Bob Ross, you know. I speak as if I know him. You can see just, there we go. Lots of movement, lots of stuff going on up close. This thing's a bit of a disaster.
Up close?
Yeah. Up close. Are you being... That was not very nice.
I thought that's what you were saying. Is that up close it's
that's
a
what
disaster?
I said. That's what I did say, up close.
I was repeating you.
I thought you were doing the up close.
No.
All right. So I'm going to come back and work on my lighthouse a bit. We do need to put a railing in, but we'll do that after we get... I want to get some of the glass going. And so I'm going to use my number 4. And again, I want to recreate glass down here. So to do that, I'm going to rinse my brush. I'm going to dry my brush. I'm going to start with a little tiny bit of white. And I don't want to be so heavy with this white that we're losing the background. I am being a little heavier down here where I'm trying to make this look a little taller. But this is glass, so it's going to be a little bit blurring of the background. And it's okay if it blurs out some of your framework. I'm actually going to take a little bit of heavier white and just blot it right in the middle here. This is kind of the center of where our actual light is going to be. We need to remember not to forget our owl too.
The wise old bird owl.
While that's a little bit wet, I'm going to take a little bit of our raw sienna. And I'm really just kind of dabbing around the edge of this white with our raw sienna. One of the things that's hard with lighthouses, with painting them, is the hardest thing to really paint and paint well is light itself, because you can't create luminescence with paint. You can suggest it. You know, not my favorite artist in the world, but Thomas Kincaid did a pretty good job of suggesting light.
Yeah, they called him the painter of light. I actually really like his paintings a lot. They're just really cozy.
My gripe with him was more about the way it became so corporate.
Yeah, I don't know. There was some drama around him, but I actually haven't ever really read into it.
No. Every shopping center had a Thomas Kincaid gallery, it's like...
My mom loved Thomas Kincaid, and she could never afford one of his paintings or prints or anything, so I just painted her one.
That's right, you did.
It was our, I don't know, junior year of college? I can't remember.
Something like that.
Third year.
All right, we'll come back to that. Let's give our brush a nice rinse. Quick little dry. When you're washing these brushes, really make sure you get the water off the metal ferrule. It has a tendency of dripping down. I'm just going to go ahead and paint my roof red.
Oh, see, that's what makes it nice and burgundy is painting it right over that purple.
Yep.
That's what we needed to do.
What?
We need to paint the roofs over there. Just leave the roofs purple on those little bottom ones.
That's what I did.
Oh, okay.
Did you paint them white?
I don't know. I felt like I had to keep adding blue to this. So I must have done something wrong. Likely. I felt like I was kind of catching up there.
So one of the things, rather than adding a highlight to this, go ahead and paint my ball on the top. My ball is way bigger than it should be. That's all right.
That means all the rest of ours is that size too. We copied you, Paul.
That's fine. It's not doesn't necessarily have to be a real lighthouse anywhere.
That is really big.
Yeah, it's huge. Yours is not at all as that big, so I don't know why you're giving me grief about it. All right, so I'm just going to mix up a little bit of our darker purple. Just start on the left side of this roof. So I'm adding shadow instead of highlight.
Pulling a Monet.
Boy, you keep referencing Monet. I'm flattered.
Actually, I'm pretty happy with the way this is turning out. It definitely has my over detailed thing that I have a really hard time parting ways
I just
with.
want to take your tiny brush away from you.
Well, the next one up is really frayed, so
You should
I've
use
been
that one.
resorting to okay. So I'll just explode all these lines with this frayed brush.
There you go. All right, so let's paint in our railing. I'm going to use the smallest brush.
Okay, my favorite.
You have to use the biggest brush, Jenny.
Okay.
That's your challenge. Use the biggest brush to paint the finest line. Now, if we were getting real detailed, we'd do a double rail that goes around, but we're not going to worry about that. I'm going to thin this. You might need to thin this paint down a little bit. You just add a little tiny bit of water, make it like ink-like. I'm just going to paint up maybe a ½ an inch on either side. Then just connect the dots. Mine feels a little bit purplish. If you get that, you can always adjust your color and go over it again. You can come through and paint some balusters. I think that's what they're called. I don't know.
I just call them vertical braces.
Vertical braces.
That covers it.
You guys know what it is.
Those things.
We aren't the vocabulary police here.
No. Mine lines right up with my horizon. Oh well.
Now I'm going to paint the owl. I didn't leave much room. But I'm going to put, he's going to be right out on this point. Here's his head.
So for the owl, he's so small you can just paint like a little blobby thing. Right?
Well, I made him a little bigger this time. I made him too small last time. So I'm kind of mimicking the shapes we did.
Okay.
I'll zoom in.
Yeah. A
And,
little, what did I call it? The stacking Russian doll shape.
well, it's actually the same shape as the owls we painted.
Yeah. Like I said, stacking. Yeah, maybe we should show that one real quick so people who didn't see the last video know why we put an owl
It's way over there.
I'll go grab it.
Put a little bit of a highlight on him. I feel like maybe I lost him a little bit too much there.
This month we decided to have our paintings sort of go together. I knew Paul was going to paint a lighthouse. And I have this small obsession with owls, so I painted the light keeper.
Yeah,
that is
so this
sitting
is,
on there.
if you'll see, this is our lighthouse. Lighthouse, the railing, the railing, and there's our bird hanging out there.
And that one comes with a template. So
Yeah.
you can trace the owl without having to draw it. Okay, so you're highlighting it in Bahama Blue?
Yeah, just a little bit of highlight on there.
Shrubs.
I'm looking to see. You can take a little bit more white at this point, and you can see. This is why I like to use the smaller brush for this. I get it kind of on the side of the brush and just kind of slide it along the edge of my painting, or the edge of my lighthouse here.
What is this lighthouse constructed of?
I think it's concrete. Or
That's what I thought, and it's like kind of stucco-y looking, but it's got to be concrete.
I mean, it could be like concrete blocks, it could be brick, I don't know, but they've put like a
Sheathing
stucco
over
or
it,
something
yeah.
on it. Yeah. Just add a little bit of glow on the right hand side. And we're going to do some shrubs, and we're going to use our big brush for that. So for our shrubs, we want to make the darkest color we can possibly make on this palette. So a little bit of our sienna, a little bit of our blue, touch of red. That's good enough. And I'm just going to start. Let the edge be uneven. Just tapping it in. Give it a little tippy tap.
Tap, tap, taparoo.
A little tap, tap, taparoo. Bonus credit points in the Facebook group if you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, we do have a Facebook group page. It's pretty fun.
A lot of people have been sharing their pictures
I love that.
lately. Now I'm going to have this row of shrubs cut right across the base of my lighthouse here. You can use it to uneven the bottom edge of your houses here. There's no real right or wrong about this. I'm adding a little bit on that right side. You can even use a smaller brush to add some extra texture to the outside edge of it. You might even, if you're having trouble getting enough opacity and darkness to this, you could maybe let it dry for a few minutes and then do a second coat. To just, the more you add, the more coats of this you add, the darker it's going to get. We hit that hour and 20 minute point and had a couple people fall off. The attention span was gone.
They could see where it was going.
Yeah.
That the painting was almost done and what it was going to look like.
Yeah, we had somebody last week who watched the live stream live and then said they were going to paint it the next day.
Wow.
Because
yeah, that's right. A lot of people do that.
Kind of late at night, and if you're on the East Coast, that's probably
It's really late at night.
yeah. But then you don't have any surprises. You can see the process, see that it does work, see that it gets you to where you want to be. Now I'm just going to add a little bit more white, a little blotchiness. I don't recommend trying to add a ray.
Not on this painting.
Not on this one. It's not dark enough. And honestly, it's it's a really hard thing to do and have it look right. Okay. Got a little bolder with my light this time, and I think I like that. I'm going to add a little extra sienna if you got too carried away. All right. Oh, I know. One more thing. Tiniest brush. Well, two more things, technically. Tiny brush. A little bit of our dark color. Little fine line. Little antenna.
What is that, little antenna?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, that's a good point. I didn't do it on purpose, Joyanna.
It looks like you're connecting the sunset and lighthouse on purpose.
But, you know, it works. I like it. Yes, that's exactly what I was intending to do.
He meant to do that.
No, it's happy accident.
There are no mistakes. That's like the best quote. It's true. There's no mistakes, only happy little accidents. And sometimes those happy little accidents become a super important part of the painting. You're like, dang, I'm so glad I made that little accident back then.
My theory on that is the accident is your subconscious trying to show you the right way. That's my theory. I actually like your painting better than mine tonight.
That's unusual.
Yeah, well, I think you got the scale works better.
With my wide lighthouse that looked like one of the nuclear power plants.
No, I mean, it is a kind of a wide, short lighthouse.
Yeah, I guess so.
So, but you got the roof better. And
I don't have the giant ball.
if you feel inclined to do a bird, I'm going to show you how I would suggest doing it. Do not use a dark color. Seabirds are always out there. I would use a little bit of your raw sienna and find just a light spot over in your sky where the raw sienna is going to show up a little darker. And just do a couple over there. We did one painting recently where I was like, go for it, just knock yourself out. Which one was that? We did a bunch of birds.
I don't remember. It was Halloween one, I think. Maybe?
Oh, yeah, it was. It was. Okay, so zoom in on those for you guys. You just do a little V shape. And it's one of those things that's like, okay, it's just there. It's not a big deal. But they are just a little added piece that is not going to jump out at you, but it's like almost like a little hidden element that's just there for people to really observe and take in. What else? Am I missing anything? No, that's it. Last thing we want to do is own it. Own up to it. I made this. I can take credit for it.
I'm the artiste.
Right there.
What? Oh.
All right, so let me get this out of the way. We'll compare it to the original first. Bring the original in. I think they're pretty well in keeping.
Yeah.
I do like
these are a little different.
Yeah, I like the softness of the original ones a little bit better. But all in all, I mean, it's not. I got nothing to complain about. I like my lighthouse better on the original. The original actually just has a warmer vibe to it as a whole for some reason. So let's get this one out of the way. Let's look at Jenny's. I like Jenny. Jenny, yours is dark.
Dark?
Darker feeling.
Darker feeling. I added stars.
I was going to say, I can see,
you know this is really dark down in here. You can't really see the house.
No, but I really like your lighthouse better. The scale of it feels more appropriate.
No, surprising. I thought it was like really squat and wide. But no, I like it. I had to work kind of hard because a lot of this was lining up with the horizon, so I had to be careful where I put the railing and
Yep.
all that.
And it's never a Jenny painting without stars added.
That's right. Gotta add some stars. So if you want to do that, I just use the handle end of the littlest brush and I poke it in the white, and then I dot it a few times on the palette to knock off excess white, and then just
You know what I think
dot
it is?
in little tiny stars and some of those clear patches.
You know what I really think I like about yours is the lighthouse, but I actually really like this darker greenish.
Yeah, that's
Color
where I
there.
decided I'd mix them together. And I think the softer clouds really make the lighthouse stand out. So yours ended up being a little more harsh
A little competitive.
than what's on your original, actually. They did it. But it's just every time you paint something, it's a little bit different.
Yep.
And I felt like these were maybe too soft, but then when I added the lighthouse in, I thought, well, that really does kind of put it in focus, I
Well,
guess.
when you look further away, and so these clouds are way off in the distance, so you're gonna lose detail visually. So what you're gonna see is everything's gonna seem more softer and washed out. And I'm with you. I feel like mine got a little bit lost in kind of lose this edge here a little bit, but
You could darken that up pretty easily.
yeah, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, or glaze over those if needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you end up with that kind of thing in your painting, this would be really easy. If you end up with really dark clouds like Paul and you want to soften them up, you can make a glaze with some real raw sienna and white, maybe a touch of Bahama blue, and really thin coat glaze over
You got to
them.
be careful with the Bahama blue and white in there because they're very
try a
opaque.
little tiny patch that you can repair so you can kind of see.
Yeah, you'd want to add some water to that.
But your lighthouse really doesn't get totally lost. It's got that
Nope.
bright red roof that's
Yep.
going to stand out no matter what. Mine, I have a bad habit of making mine a little too neat. Like my waves are really neat.
Yeah,
And-
up close you can see there's a lot more going on in here. But you do a lot more like dainty brushwork with that kind of stuff.
And that's
so.
that's a habit I'm trying to break. Because I think it'll be good for me to
But you do a lot of.
neaten myself.
So if you guys don't know, and I think Jenny shares a lot on her Instagram, but she does a lot of pen and ink type of work too. So you're used to
watercolor.
using, but you're used to using
sharp
more.
outlines. I use a Posca acrylic paint markers, and I draw little animals, and they're always kind of cartoony, but everything is very boldly outlined. Well, not boldly, but dark color-wise boldly, but...
Yeah.
All right, let's
Zoom back.
Let's say goodbye.
Let's say goodbye.
Thanks for painting along with us and sticking with us for the long haul.
We've got some next month. We got a little shake-up for y'all.
Yeah, we have some different canvas sizes that are really fun. I found them, and I was so excited when I found them because they're tall and narrow. They're, I want to say 4 inches by 12 inches.
Yeah.
We're going to do 3 of those.
Yeah, so
and so you'll
technically
have a
next month-
snowman and a fox and then whatever landscape he's working on right
Yep.
now.
Technically, you're going to have 3 projects next month.
Yeah, 3 projects.
So.
2 we'll do in one video, and then yours we'll do in another.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So I might get detailed.
Okay, yeah, you could. You totally could.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So, outside of that, have a great.
Follow or join our Facebook
Oh, yeah.
group. It's called GoBox Art Crate. Is that GoBox
Yeah, I
Art
haven't
Crate?
changed the
It's
name
not
of
it's not a business page. It's a group page.
But we
You
have
to
a
request to
business
join.
page called GoBox Art Crate as well.
It's just called GoBox.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But GoBox Art Crate is the discussion group where we post pictures of our stuff and you guys who paint along with us post pictures of your stuff.
You know, maybe we should add the word group at the end.
Yeah.
GoBox Art Crate Group.
December we're coming out with a kids crate. We've already
Yeah.
got the projects designed for that, and
Should be able to sign up for that within the next couple of days, and so.
And my goal with the kids crate is to be a little more crafty, so because kids can tend to get bored working on paintings all the time. Maybe they want to try something different, so we'll be doing some little different shapes of canvas or different wood, that kind of thing. And
Same program,
we're working
though.
on some crafty stuff for them.
A couple projects a month, same price structure.
Yeah, an age group, I would say it's great for probably
K through 6.
K through 6. Yeah. Well, maybe even K through 8.
Yeah, it depends. Some kids that are 4th, 5th grade might be doing fine with the type of stuff we did tonight, and it just kind of depends on their attention span and interest level.
Yeah.
So it's a good place to start, and we've done kids programs at our studios forever, and so we're looking forward to doing that.
So anyway, we're long-winded tonight.
We are, but we're all done, so we can talk as long as we
done.
want. People can turn it off anytime at this point.
So we will see you guys next month, if not before. I know I'll do a couple kids videos that I'll post on YouTube.
That's something else. The kids videos are not going to be live streams.
No, they're going to be recorded.
They'll be
and
pre-recorded.
We'll have our
uploaded.
first one recorded within a couple weeks here and posted on Instagram. So,
as always,
thanks for painting along with us, and I hope you guys have a great next week.
Yeah.
So,
Adios.
all right. Anything else?
No, I got it. That's it. I'm done.
Okay. See you later.
Quick.
Bye.
Cut.